Welcome to Chronic Combat Conversations, a live look at our best bets, picks, and predictions for every UFC event. With your host, TV Scouting MMA, and
the Guru, back again for UFC 305 from the land down under. We're going to Western Australia for the middleweight title. Dricus du Plessis is defending his belt against the two-time former champ, Israel Adesanya. The battle to see who is the real African champ goes down in Australia. But before we can get into this banger of a pay-per-view, we got to introduce a very, very special guest. Make sure you're following him over on Twitter. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 MMA guy. Make sure you're following him over there. Make sure you're checking him out. He's got his show Fight Factor, not Fear Factor with Joe Rogan. You got Fight Factor with Lou Betcha. You can't miss that. And he's also doing Dana White Contender Series with our buddy Couch Warrior on Sundays. Go give them a listen too. But the Dogfather, the big spender, the big money maker. What's shaking, brother?
Not much. Excited to be here. I appreciate the energy. That's something that I certainly do not have much of. So I appreciate that you guys are bringing it on your end. I will try my best to match it, but I will fail miserably.
That's all right. As long as you're here for a good time, that's all that counts. You're a willing participant.
We can't.
Do you have a Bully B shirt on right now?
Yeah, man. Shout out John Anik. Shout out
go.
Bully B. We won a ton of money on Bilal Muhammad on the last podcast for the last pay-per-view. So I was feeling really good about it. $50 t-shirt, man. Shout out to them.
I had a little bit of Bully B and Bully B decision. It was meant to be. It was inevitable. Free Palestine. Let's go.
Let's go.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
We'll drink to free in Palestine.
What's going on, Mushroom? Lou, listen, you can't blame us for doing what we do, you know? Absolutely love it. Thought we were moving the show to Thursdays. Don't worry, that comes next week when the Guru does not have a concert to go to. So
concert last week, concert tomorrow if anybody wants to pull up to Brooklyn. But
yeah, so
that's what's up.
This new graphic that I so beautifully made when we did originally switch to Thursdays. Well, here we are back on Wednesday, but at a fun new time, 9 p.m. So I would like to thank our work schedules for allowing us to reconfigure, but we'll see you guys on Thursdays, 8 p.m. going forward. Absolutely enthralled, ready to have a great time. And oh my word, what a main event that we have. Let's not waste any further time because this is what all the people came for, right? It's still Knox, Dricus du Plessis versus this style bender, Israel Adesanya, now at an even -110 apiece. The over 4.5 at +100, under 4.5 at -130. We're starting to see a slide on Bet Online because DraftKings, they're not fully willing to place full overs and unders at this point. So we got to go digging for these lines. So, I mean, we saw like kind of a -110 from an over-under perspective. Now we're seeing it slide that way. We also saw Dricus du Plessis open as the underdog, and here we are at even money. So, man, what an absolute banger of a matchup. I mean, Izzy's going to come in. He's supposedly got a 3-inch height advantage when Dricus isn't wearing the pumps at their face-off. Then he's also should be sporting about a 4-inch edge and reach. It's about similar to what he had coming in against Strickland, though. So the real question here is, like, did he solve any of the problems that were posed by a pressure fighter on the front foot that can check leg kicks, that can catch kicks to the body in the midsection? Because Strickland was kind of stymieing everything of, like, the lower half kicking game that Adesanya loves to use the most. And along with that pressure style, it really didn't give Adesanya anything because he's not necessarily the biggest power threat with his hands, unless you go and ask Poatan, you know? So coming into this matchup here, we've seen Dricus have a difficult time when he's forced to strike at distance. But when he's able to mix up the game, get his takedowns going, start using his physicality to overwhelm opponents, we really see a change. So the question here is he inflicting an early wrestling game plan on Israel Adesanya and starting to make Adesanya show that bit of like a mental give that we saw in the Strickland fight, that we saw in the Blachowicz fight? Or are we going to see Adesanya kind of style from the outside here, kind of similar to the Paulo Costa fight? Those are a couple of ways I could see this fight playing out. I'm, a bit biased towards the Adesanya side. I've never been a big fan of Dricus technically, but I did cash a plus money bet on him versus Strickland last time with the Guru. So it makes it very difficult here because Duplessis, he's got the upward trajectory. Adesanya, does he still have that fire in him? I think this is the guy that he wanted to face all along. I'm going to take a shot on the style bender, but I'm going to keep it small. And I know I'm a little bit biased. So, Guru, what do you think about how this fight plays out?
Man, this fight is giving me agita. It just is, man. This is really, really tough. Really tough technical styles. I just might be. Honestly, no way. Those tickets are way too expensive. Yeah, listen, Dricus, did he really win the Sean Strickland fight though? Like, I was happy to cash my ticket. Certainly felt like the UFC wanted to do anything to not let Sean Strickland continue to be champ. At the same time, hearing Dana White say that Sean Strickland gets the winner of this match, okay, I think that's fair too. It's not like he doesn't deserve it. Yeah, just really, really tough fight. I do invariably think it ends up going the distance. I think that there's gonna be a lot of respect between the two guys, even if they don't have a lot of personal respect for each other. I think that there'll be a lot of strategic, technical respect. Somebody like Dricus, who maybe isn't super technical, right, kind of makes up for it with unbelievable game planning. The way he game planned for Robert Whittaker, the way he planned throwing his jab while Whittaker is moving. Really, really incredible stuff. Shout out to our guy Ghost Phantom Punch for pointing some stuff like some of that really technical stuff out. I just feel like at the end of the day, somebody like Sean Strickland, just the way that he pumps out that jab, it's just a higher level than Dricus. And I'm not sure that Dricus is just going to simply be able to replicate the same exact game plan type of thing and just beat Izzy down, or to the point that Izzy somehow hasn't made any adjustment towards it. I think the line is fair too on the money line. That's the other thing that really makes it tough. This is a tough fight to predict, and I think 50-50 is fair. So if you got plus money on Dricus, I respect that. I really do. But yeah, I'll end up going. I'll lean going the over 4.5 here. And as an Izzy fan, I'm gonna go with Izzy round 4-5 decision, like plus 160, I guess. But not a lot of meat on those bones. Dogfather, you barking on this one, man? You sinking your teeth in?
I thought you guys did a fantastic job of breaking that fight down. I don't really have much to say. I do think Izzy's game, though, in my opinion, a lot of it's layered off of kicks, and then he transitions from kick feints into punches. And with Strickland, you kind of saw, because he shut down the kicking game, Izzy wasn't able to get his feint game going and layer the hands on top. Dricus, it's a little bit confusing because his style is rather unorthodox. And you've noticed that over time, guys who stand in front of Israel Adesanya and don't have a lot of footwork or movement, they get pieced up because they stand right in front of him and he's able to sort of get reads and layer onto his feint game and layer onto his kicks and punches. I just don't know if Dricus is going to give him that opportunity because of his style, his ability to switch stances, his physicality, and just kind of how he fights being so awkward. He is open to be countered in this position. That's my biggest red flag for Dricus here, is just his striking defense is poor at times, and it almost has come to bite him in the ass. We've seen him KO'd one time to Roberto Soldic, but I believe that fight was at 170 pounds, and Soldic is a big-time hitter. I mean, if you're familiar with KSW, he was in one and got knocked out recently as well. But I still believe that Soldic is a very dangerous fighter. At one point in time, he was viewed as one of the best prospects in the entire world at the weight class. And Dricus also killed him in their first fight. So I just believe this to be 50-50 matchup because I have a hard time figuring out what this looks like. It could be back and forth, and that's kind of how I see it going. I think the over is fine, but both guys are really tough. Both guys are actually really, really durable too. So I do lean over. I do lean GTD. However, I can see there being a lot of instances where this fight could finish in several iterations. So I do think that it's probably accurate, and I'm just going to stay away, watch, listen to people laugh when Izzy 49-46 him at kicking range, and they'll act like, why would you ever not bet Izzy at pick'em? So
Yep, I love it. I love it, and it's going to be one of those hindsight type of things where it's like, oh, he looked like, such a big favorite or something like that. In retrospect,
Izzy was
I
so washed. Why would you bet him?
Yeah,
Right.
I think it invariably the public hate of Izzy. Oh, he just walks into a title shot, like all this shit. It's like I guess on some level, like I get it in terms of the walking into the title shot, but like the heat, you have to sell fights. He's headlined more pay-per-views in the last 5 years than anybody else. Maybe like it's him and Volkanovski. Like he's been your biggest star. He was the cover of at least one video game, if not two. He's a multinational type of fighter. He's endorsed by Puma. He's in commercial. Like, what are you guys talking about? And he's a long reigning champ. Nobody respects it. And maybe they'll start to put it together when you see the belt pass from this person to that person to this person. You got Leon Edwards, now you got Bilal Muhammad, and you're going to have Shavkat in December. Like, when will you put some respect on somebody's name that has 4, 5, 6 title defenses? Like, what are you talking about? Fighting Poetan. Are you fucking nuts? Dude, that dude never belonged at 185. I don't know how he fucking made it.
That's very true. This is a great question, Phantom. We were just talking about you before. Your ears must have been tingling. Yeah, I mean, like, listen, it could qualify. The problem is to get a TB nickname, you generally have to not have one already on the UFC stats website. But listen, it's always in consideration. Given
that's crazy. That's like a crazy ass nickname.
yeah, pretty wild. But
that's like you're out here. I love it.
All right, so we've got Don't Blink, Kai France versus Steve Astro Boy Erceg, aka Jimmy Neutron, and we just had his buddy Carl Weiser fight recently too. So
he is not a fucking buddy anymore. Don't you fucking ever bring. He does not get Carl Weiser nickname anymore. Fuck Carl Williams, not wrestling ass motherfucker. The fuck was that?
Well, he got an ultimatum, and I think there's someone else on this card that got an ultimatum. And the reason,
can I tell you something? How dumb is that fucking ultimatum? What are you going to do? Not wrestle and lose the fight? Do you think you're getting a contract then, you fucking moron?
Well, anywho, we're here for Kai France, and the reason Dogfather's here is because he cast a beautiful Denise decision that caught your bespectacled eyes and said, damn, this guy just found the most beautiful value play that we need to have him on for UFC 305. But apparently Mr. Lubecha would agree with you, Mr. Guru. That
listen, Carl, anytime I've ever talked shit about a fighter, I said I'll buy him a beer. I'll buy him 2 beers. I really went in, but bro, like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah, not ideal.
What the fuck?
Not ideal.
No,
but,
not cool.
All right, so the question here is, does Kai France have an ultimatum? No, I'm just kidding. But Don't Blink, this fight, I mean, it's probably going to go further than how Kai France would hope it would go here. I think ultimately where Steve Erceg opened in the -200 range, I was a little hesitant at first. I thought Erceg was the clear play. I mean, the guy's got pretty solid height advantage. They got very similar reach. And Erceg, I think even if you took out the grappling, he's got very comparable striking. And then when you add in the layer of the back takes, the wrestling, the grappling of Steve Erceg to at least change the looks up, I mean, he should coast here in my mind. But I get it. When the line was a bit wider, it made sense to take a little bit of a dog shot on the guy who has been in the UFC a little bit longer. But I think Erceg truthfully has looked better against the tougher competition. France, he's still shown a gaping hole in his wrestling and grappling defense in that.
Yeah, you like that gaping hole. That gaping hole, don't you?
He loves to give up his back. He must be,
sick fuck.
Yeah. So yeah, ultimately,
dirty old man.
Yeah, disgusting, dirty. I'm like at least 1,000 years old at heart, so I'd like to apologize. But Kai France here, I just think, while he is a solid enough striker overall, and he has like decent power. I mean, we've seen Erceg. I think Alessandro Costa has a bit more danger to him overall and a better grappling game than what France offers at this point. This guy's coming off multiple injuries, right? He had to pull out of a few recent fights. So, I mean, Erceg now, it's a great question, right? In a land down under, or at least nearby. But -150-ish range too. Erceg keeps sliding, man, like from what I was updating earlier. So I mean, I don't understand where the market's moving on this one. I feel like I'm gonna have to dip my toes in on the Astro Boy side ultimately. What do you got here, Guru?
Yeah, I mean, unless like they know something, like I truly don't understand the line movement. Kai France has been finished 6 times, 3 knockouts, 2 decisions. He hasn't fought in over a year. He's lost his last 2 fights, including the Amir Albazi split decision and losing round 3 to Brandon freaking Moreno, getting kicked in the liver. And then, as I look at this, he pulled out a 293 Manel Cup due to a concussion symptoms. Like, I don't know what to make of any of that. Sure. Oh, you want to tell me Kai France at home, dog, training with Hooker and Izzy. Guess where Steve Erceg's from? It's a home fight for him too. He's fine. Like, is he not the guy that was 2-2 with Pantoja going into 5? Like, why is the line going the other way? Like, I'm lost. He's bigger, he's the better grappler, and he showed he's a great striker, which we already knew. But fuck, man, I'm on Erceg here, and let the fanboys keep betting Kai France. Like, give me more better price on Erceg. I like Erceg, and originally I kind of like putting in the over 1.5, but fuck that. I don't trust Kai France. I think Erceg is dangerous. He hasn't necessarily shown it super, like at a super high level at the UFC, but I mean, Dvorak, a tough guy. Costa, I believe, never been finished. Kills Chanel, and again, Pantoja, nobody kills that guy. So yeah, I think he could end up finishing Kai France, but just give me Pantoja. Give me Pantoja. Give me Erceg in general.
Give me Pantoja here.
Pantoja in this fight. And still, what do you got? What do you got, Dogfather?
I feel like this line is accurate if Kai is somewhere around his historical level. I believe Erceg to be rather hittable on the feet. I don't really necessarily rate Pantoja as a striker in general. He is also very hittable himself. He's gassy. And he's on like a pretty historical run where he has gritted out a lot of these fights. If you look back Pantoja's run, he hasn't really like dominated or separated against anybody unless he's getting an early back take into submission. A lot of his fights are wars. So I think I don't really necessarily rate like that performance. Like, I do rate the performance because it was a bit unexpected. I do think Erceg has a lot of skills, but I don't think that Pantoja is a guy that if you have a competitive fight with him, it's incredibly surprising if you're near like the top 5 championship level, because he's been competitive with a lot of guys. You know, at the end of the day, he was pretty much mogged by Davison Figueiredo, and Figueiredo is in his prime. So I agree that, you know, Erceg seems to have a lot of the upside in this fight, largely because of Kai coming in with concussion-like symptoms, pulling out of the cop fight. That's obviously very concerning. The Albazi performance, in my opinion, was pretty good. I feel like Erceg and Albazi are probably similar levels, with Albazi being a better pure wrestler. And that was a very competitive fight. I think the line is fine. My biggest concerns are Erceg's hitability. And Kayakara's ability to negate grappling. If you go back to like the Askarov performance, it was incredibly impressive how he was able to neutralize and make that fight incredibly close. Add into the fact that Erceg is pretty hittable and Kai seems to be a pretty dynamic striker. I think the line's probably accurate. I lean unders actually because both guys, 4 flyweights, do have some finishing ability. Erceg has been cracked on the feet before. He was dropped in the Cody Haddon fight, and he was also dropped in the Costa fight. And he is vulnerable to big overhands, which is Kai France's best punch. Under seems good. Kai likes to get finished. I don't know if I'll get there, but it could be violent. So lean under. Line's accurate, about 60% Erceg for me.
I like it. I was feeling the same, and you know, there's a tendency where I really want to go heavy on Erceg here, but I got to wait for the line to slide a little bit more before I do so, I'd say.
Yeah,
Really
I mean,
appreciate it.
I think it's fine to kind of consider Erceg's performance to Pantoja and kind of really rate him because of Pantoja's current winning streak. But I do find that, in Pantoja's run, he's been competitive pretty much in a lot of these fights he's been in, just because, he's not like the most, I would say, ideal fighter. He's not risk adverse at all. Like, he goes out there and he's just full on Pojada from the first minute into the fight, and he's trying to beat the shit out of you. And if he doesn't do that, then his cardio doesn't really hold up, and he ends up being in a lot of wars. So I do rate the performance of Erceg because he shows that he's on like that caliber of level at such a young age, and he has a lot of upside. But I think you're paying that premium in the line.
Yeah, very good. Shout out all you guys in the chat. Awesome. Big Body coming here for the Dogfather. Yes, we did, sir. Yes, we did. We only get the best guests on the show, so we just had to do it. Yeah, it is a good point, as you guys bring up. There is a legitimate path that we could see on the other side of things, and that's what kind of keeps you from going heavy here. So
he's gonna throw the same overhand that fat Georgian did on the Dana White Contender.
Mihaly, you can do it, brother. Just don't gas out. Oh god,
just throw the overhand, my brother.
What's going on, Mr. Meldmano? Astrology man, let's get it. Yeah, I mean, still, he is capping him up to 60%. So it's still like understanding it, but it's about where you're investing your money. So I get that.
I think he made a ton of good points. I really did forget just how impressive that Askarov performance was. He like stood on his head, keeping the takedown, keeping the fight on the feet. I remember that now. That was crazy. I don't think Erceg's gas tank is nearly as bad as Askarov's, but it could be concerning if for some reason Erceg wants it on the feet and can't get it there.
Yeah, for sure. I think he'll be okay from distance as well. Kiwi, what's going on? Mr. Kiwi, fantastic, a member of the channel, as well as Mr. Glimbot, a couple of our fantastic members of the channel. Love you guys so much. And hell yeah, Camber, appreciate you being here, one of our awesome previous guests as well. So we're moving along here. We got the gamer Mateusz Gamrot, minus 340 versus the Hangman, Dan Hooker at plus 270. I'm just saying, it seems like someone got an ultimatum. Dogfather, what are you looking at here in this matchup?
Yeah, I mean, I bet Hooker. I'm not necessarily like super excited about the play because I've seen everybody on it now, and that's probably one of my biggest concerns, like obvious underdog bets. But yeah, I mean, to me, it's I really do rate Gamrot, though. I will say he's had some incredible performances in KSW. You kind of know what his game is, though. Like, I'm pretty sure this guy could lose like 29-28 against, like, God himself. But he could also split decision God himself as well in the same night. So I just think his style is it's slim margins, but he's also really good at what he does, and he knows what he needs to do to win fights. I mean, a fantastic single leg, incredible tenacity. He's durable. He knows what to do in every position on the ground. He's relentless. I really love, Mateusz Gamrot, and, I think the name is incredibly fitting. This dude is a gamer through and through. I don't think there's a better, more fitting nickname for him. On the Hooker side, though, I feel like there's value on Hooker. We've seen the control versus damage argument, obviously, but I do think that Hooker's counter grappling is rather underrated. His takedown defense is not the best. People are going to reference the Islam Makhachev fight like that is relevant. I find that rather irrelevant entirely, largely because he was in his hotel room training for that fight. That was during COVID. He fought Nasrat a month prior. I don't take anything from that, and it seems like from the casual fan perspective, that seems to be, the main focus. And I don't really understand that. I think this fight plays out similar to the Jalen Turner fight, where Hangman has a lot more heart and he has a better cardio base. So yeah, I mean, give me Hangman. His single leg defense is actually pretty decent. From my perspective, he has pretty good balance. I know Iaquinta is not the greatest wrestler ever, but Iaquinta got deep on got high top single, and Dan did a great job with his balance all the way across the cage length. Defended, pulled a little oil check to make sure he couldn't, run and turn the corner on him. And I think that's pretty live here. I do like Dan when he's off his back, if he can, avoid Gamrot passing, but I don't think his control is the best either. I think there is the ability for Dan to land damage in the clinch as well. My biggest concern, though, is if Gamrot is getting control time off, Dan is rather hittable, and Gamrot knows what to do. He knows to circle around the cage side and throw hooks, and pretty much try to weasel his way out of rounds. So, in my opinion, the line is a little wide. I do think Gamrot should be like 70% personally. It's enough for me to take a unit on Hooker, but my plan is on Hooker. I think he puts up a lot of resistance early and then maybe gets worn down as the fight goes. So my plan is to kind of exit entry on Hangman live if I can. If not, I feel like if he's having a lot of more success stuffing takedowns than I expect, I'll keep it. But I do expect him to hold up on the takedown end, especially defensively early in this fight.
Nice. Yeah, Guru?
Yeah, honestly, when you look back at Dan Hooker, right, who he's been finished by, I just think it's like you got to give the guy all the credit in the world. He's honestly one of the most exciting fighters you can ask for in one of the toughest divisions in the sport. You look back at his finish losses. Okay, he gets round 3 body kicked by Edson Barbosa in Edson's prime. Decision loss to Dustin Poirier in probably the best fight to ever happen in the Apex. You've got the round 1 loss to Michael Chandler, arguably the worst loss of them all. He didn't have his coach in the corner for that camp. I believe he was all on his own due to some random shit that's also during COVID. Dogfather gave you a fantastic breakdown as to why the Islam Makhachev fight is irrelevant. It's completely fucking irrelevant. The dude is unbelievable, and he's a fantastic grappler. The Arnold Allen fight, terrible looks. Still, Arnold Allen doesn't finish anybody. But again, what the fuck is Dan Hooker doing down at featherweight? Nobody understands what he was doing there at all. Beat Claudio Cuellas. The Jalen Turner wins, fantastic. Broken arm, surgery, needed to kind of fix that. Has spent a year off. And honestly, I don't know. It seems like the year off, other than getting a ton of tattoos, may have been the best thing for a guy that couldn't stop fighting all the fucking time. Like all the time. Like 3 times in 2021, twice in 2022. Just very, very active guy. So some time off probably does his body well. He is home.
I think the activity is not a huge factor, but it's how Dan fights that makes the 3 fights in a year the biggest issue, right? It's like you're getting completely slept by Chandler. You're going to absolute war with Poirier. It's like all of that damage compiles up in like a really short time span. So I agree. I think the break is great, but it's like the combination of the activity and then also his fighting style, where it's like, dude, you can't put Dan. There's no way with Dan, like how his style is, that he can fight 3-4 times a year, because he's probably good at this level, at like the top 5, top 10 level. His style is he kind of has to get in a little bit of a war.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And at 34 years old, like, you know what I mean? He's not getting any younger. I mean, none of us are.
Look at how old Gamer is.
Well, so that's the other thing, which I didn't even get to talk about yet. Sure, Gamrot's the rightful favorite. Nobody's saying he shouldn't be. We've talked about it on time and time again on this show as we've come to really learn and understand how to do this. Minus 200 and above, tell me how you're getting the finish. Tell me clearly. Give it to me clearly right now, because I don't think he's submitting him. He's got no submissions in the UFC, right? And Dan Hooker's tough as nails. I just don't see it. So how does he cover his price tag? You've got to blanket him for 15 minutes. That style doesn't even score anymore. What damage? Hooker's not going to sit there and accept it. He's going to go berserk, I would imagine. Dan Hooker, the exact kind of dog you want to put money on, because he's a fucking dog and he will fight for your money.
Well, that's probably why the Dogfather has a bet on him, if I had to guess.
Gotta play him.
Yeah.
Love it.
Well, yeah, I agree with you guys. I won't add too much more. Envisioning the elbows, along the fence, maybe a little front choke style. There's plenty of ways that Hooker could present danger on those single leg entries. So, and he's huge, man. He's got 5-inch reach advantage, 2-inch height advantage, and he definitely knows how to use it. He's got good knees up the middle on the single leg. How you doing, Mateusz? He generally dives onto these singles desperately as he's getting plugged from distance. So, yeah, 5-inch reach advantage and a guy that knows how to kick and use knees to his advantage could get a little sketchy for you, Mr. Gamer, especially if the UFC is telling you that you should have more exciting fights if you want the chance for a title.
They just signed him to a new contract, so it's not like they don't like him. At the same time, they just gave him Dan Hooker after beating RDA Fazeev and Jalen Turner, so he's kind of just continued to make lateral move after lateral move. Like he's not making his way up the charts. He just isn't. They just keep giving him more difficult, interesting matchups. Yes. They're like, okay, you can handle this striker. Let's give you this striker. Let's give you this classic striker. Let's let you go to war with Dan Hooker in Australia. Go show us that you want this.
Yeah, I mean, just thinking back to I will say I think he looked fantastic in the Fazeev fight personally. I know the result is what it is, but I mean the pace that these dudes were setting in the first round with how Gamrot was getting on to the cage and onto Fazeev's hips. I had a bet on him.
We took Gamrot on that one. Yeah, we were lucky. We took him there. Dude, we were so dumb. A friend tipped us. He said, play KO plus 1,000, and we took it. It was so funny.
For Gamrot?
Yeah, it was hilarious.
It was dumb.
On that fight too. It was so funny.
It was really
I mean, sometimes it works out that way though. You gotta run with that.
Was not complaining about a couple extra dollars, This week's Denise, I don't know.
We expected the pace, and we didn't think that that Fazeev would be able to keep it standing, and didn't matter.
Oh man, this is what everyone came here for, and it wasn't lose knowledge of a certain gentleman's club. It was actually Bam Bam Tai Tuivasa versus Guru's original avatar, the Biggie Boy, Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Absolutely swimming in all of that, coming out of the water with the goggles. It was a beautiful thing for a long time for the Guru.
It's still I love that. It's still my verdict profile picture if anybody cares.
If you cared, then this was your moment to shine. Bam Bam Tuivasa plus 180 versus Jairzinho at minus 218. Lou Betcha is going to need his lawyer as per usual. And in this matchup, I think the question is Tai with 1 foot out the door? Is it about his outside business ventures? Because if not, he's getting just the type of matchup that he would want, right? It's a swing and bang, knock him down matchup. They match up very favorably from a height and reach perspective. So overall here, it's, who's going to land the leather first, or do they even engage at all? And is this one of those hilarious over situations? So I tend to think that Tuivasa's leg kicks, while a bit more wild, are going to cause a bit more damage than what Jairzinho typically throws. His are a bit more of rangefinders and his version of accruing volume, because Jairzinho, he's typical to just wait for the counter strike and just be low output, low volume. Then when a guy like Shamil starts gassing out and running in his face and presents all these counter opportunities, well, then you can have a good time as Biggie Boy. But
he didn't even knock him out. He stopped. It was cuts. He stopped. They stopped the fight.
Yeah, it was Big Meal Shamil's corner deciding enough was enough, and maybe a little bit of Big
he was
Meal
hungry.
deciding.
He needed a meal. He was starving.
Yeah.
He hadn't eaten in 20 minutes.
Well, you add in the time in the corners as well. That's almost nearly 24 minutes now. You got a good point, Guru. This you could be onto something here.
His blood sugar was plummeting. It was plummeting.
Oh my God! Get the Ozempic for this man. My God. I think Tai Tuivasa, things don't go well here. We're going to see him in the future, just promoting all of his outside events.
I think he's done. I really think he's done regardless. I mean, I'm just looking at it. I mean, it's 4 straight losses. I mean, got not only does he have the weed dispensary, he's got the beer brewery, and it's fucking it's huge. And I mean, he's like a B-list celebrity where he's from. Like he's pretty big bananas down there in Australia. So I mean, they're kind of giving him one last chance here. I'm just not sure. I'm really, to your point, I'm not sure how invested he is in fighting. But I'll tell you this: Jairzinho doesn't throw enough, and who Jairzinho's beat in his last 4 years? The corpse of Junior Dos Santos, Augusto Sakai, Chris Dawkins, and Shamil. I feel pretty good about Tai Tuivasa against all 4 of those. So, they both lost to Volkov. They both lost to Gon. It'll be interesting to see what happens here. I just think in heavyweight MMA, when both guys can clearly get a finish, you have to line the fight way closer than this. So, I lean Tai, even though I'm very concerned about his commitment. And fuck the over 1.5. I'll just take like fight to start round 2 at like probably near pick 'em or even maybe close plus money there. I think it takes a little bit of time. But Tai Tuivasa, it does not matter that he's home. He is not afraid to lose at home. He lost to Sergey Spivak at home. He lost to who else did he lose it to at home, guys? He lost to Alexander Volkov at home. Who else?
Come on, guys, back me up here. Come on.
I'm just saying, there's a bunch of them.
Yeah, was it also the Blagoy fight too?
No, that fight wasn't in Australia.
Fair enough. Well, anyways, instead of leaving open-ended questions that we have to go put dead time on the air to research, I agree. It kind of is a dog or pass situation for me. So as the guru goes and does his thing here and hopefully fixes his audio issues happening, Bam Bam here I think is worth an idea, but it's also one of those ones where like, I don't know if it's going to be like it's just over quickly and you're like, well, that was definitely like a potential thing that could have happened. Yeah, I don't feel great about it, but I had to take a little taste of like plus 190 or so. But I mean, would I be surprised? Would I be surprised? No, I just think that Jairzinho's wins, as Guru was saying, I mean, they're really not the most impressive when you line it up, but even as the older guy, his trajectory has looked like at least slightly better to this stage. So, Dogfather, what do you got going here?
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird fight. It's kind of hard to get a read on because both these guys are primary strikers. So when you kind of look at the line, you'd assume that Jairzinho is like the much better striker. And I do think he's more technical. He seems to be more advanced as a striker than Tai, who's a bit of a brute. But I mean, Tai has improved a little bit, technically wise over the years, and he's performed well when he doesn't have like a massive reach or range disadvantage like he did against Gon or Volkov, or even a guy like Pavlovich who's just kind of like massive and he's got insane power. So I do think, just breaking it down from like a striker versus striker perspective, I do think technically Tai does have some advantages, which is countering the jab with the low kick, which is his primary weapon, or in my opinion he seems the most functional with it. He seems to have a great read on it. He knows when to pop it, knows when to use it, and it's really good. So yeah, I think there are some advantages for Tai in this fight, but I do kind of have to assume that Biggie Boy's the more technical striker. He uses his long punches better. He manages range better. And when I think about how Rozenstruik manages range, I kind of look at the pricing of the total, and I have to feel like if Rozenstruik isn't like opening up massively on Tuivasa, that this could look, like a fight that could get extended if Bam Bam chooses to fight somewhat technically, and sort of build himself into the fight. Recently, he's kind of just been going in and trying to steamroll. Like he tried to steamroll Tybura. He tried to steamroll Pav for a little bit. And he's stuck in there in the Pavlovich and the Gon fight, in my opinion. I do think Tai is still relatively durable. Surprisingly enough, like what's he, 32, 31, 32? Historically, that's pretty young for heavyweights. We've seen them make improvements late in their career, so I don't mind people taking the dog shot on Tai. However, it's just something that I'm not super interested in because I don't know where he's at. I've been tempted on the over, and I've been tempted on the fight starts round 2 because I do think these guys could build into this fight a little bit more than I think the market perspective is, because I do kind of think Biggie Boy is more of a patient striker. And Tai might come out here with a game plan of like, hey, I don't want to get finished in the first round here and lose my job or, get embarrassed again. So I do think that could be some value on, fight to start round 2 at like pick'em price, which I don't think is bad. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm leaning. I don't know if I'm going to take the shot because it could look terrible. But I think even if these guys go to war in round 1, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody gets rocked and, doesn't get finished. Because I think both guys are pretty durable. So, I mean, Biggie Boy's been knocked out by Volkov, which was kind of suspect in my opinion. It was an early stoppage, and then Nagano of recent memory. So I do think that both guys are rather durable. And I don't think Biggie Boy's like this murderous power. I don't think he's a murderous power puncher like, like Pavlovich or a point fighter like Gane. He's going to kick him to the body 75 times. So I do think there could be some value here on like fight to start round 2.
Right. Yeah, I like that. I think I love that fight starts round 2. I love the potential overs because even like Biggie Boy, like you said, man, it takes a lot to really get either guy out of here. It's never really like just a one-punch deal. And like, can you blame a guy for Francis Ngannou? So I like it. I think there's a lot of ways to try to get plus money on this fight, and it could be a good time either way. No matter what, you're guaranteed hilarity. Guru. There's like a double feedback. Experiencing tag being yeah, I just muted Guru and it fixed it. So you're not going through your headphones right now. This guy's having a tough time. So let us say chee-wee-wees for the chat here. Yep, still messed up.
Chee-wee-wee.
Yeah, still messed up on the Guru side of things, man. So here we go. We got our next fight. Jeez, the Leech, Li Jingliang. So if you hear an echo, that means the Guru is attempting things. Plus 285 versus the Nightmare, Carlos Prates. Yeah, it is pretty sick. Guru,
can you hear me?
I can hear you, and I can't hear myself. You sound great, and I can't hear myself, so I'm very happy right now.
I'm very sorry. Fucking my laptop has AIDS, and it's been a very long day.
It's been exposed to you for a long time. I'm not surprised.
Oh, God.
It's all right. Dogfather gave a fantastic chiwiwi. So good that Pepe had to recognize it. And he said he wasn't going to bring the energy. I think we got it out of him. This is incredible. It's an absolutely amazing time.
I've chiwiwi'd my last chiwiwi.
I hope.
I don't think you could ever get better than that. That was incredible.
You better not have. I wasn't even here for it. Fuck.
Yeah, I think that's what made it so magical. No, just kidding. All right, so Carlos Prates, the Nightmare. Yeah, he's sad. I'm sorry.
I'm on my phone. I can't pull up bets. I can't pull up bets now. My laptop needed to like update itself because it has AIDS.
Get your iPad.
Oh my God, that's the other thing. It's in the kitchen. I'd have
just
to
go.
Leave again.
Just go. Just walk real quick. Leave your phone.
All right,
who cares?
Fine. I'll go check.
All right. So, anyways, I don't want to hear you complaining you don't have your stuff. Go get stuff. We are definitely going to clip that and share it with the Dogfather and the rest of the world out there. It was incredible. If that was the last, then might it be a beautiful thing. So, anyways, the Leech here. The question is like, all right, listen. Let's be real. I'm at an orthopedic rehab clinic, and I see people all the time with C5, C6 injuries, and it's never really a great thing to have to rehab from. And I'm not 100% sure if he had to receive the surgery or if he just went through like an extensive rehab and let it kind of like feel better on its own. Either way, I don't love it. There's huge differentials in strength. Like when the nerve is being impinged, that even when you start getting things back and firing properly, focusing on those individual things for so long and then having to refocus into fight camp and training again, it's like your body, I don't know. I haven't really seen great things from like Brian Kelleher, from Ramiz Brahimaj. But then again, it's like, well, it's type of level of fighter.
When did you ever see good things from them? Cervical fusion or not?
Right, but at the same time, if you're talking about Li Jingliang giving up 7 inches of reach, even though he's only giving up 1 inch of height, for a guy that I don't trust to really use a high level of like offensive takedowns, or I expect Li to have pace. It's just if you bring pace, Carlos isn't really high volume unless you're giving him opportunities to counter. He doesn't really love calf kicks though, which is kind of interesting.
Isn't Li more of a counter striker too, though?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like ultimately, it would be really cool if you guys smash the like. So that first, but it would be really cool to.
Is that your technical analysis for this fight?
Yeah, technical stuff. But overall, I think that Li, like in another universe where I didn't have such bad vibes about the type of injury he's returning from, then it would be like an easy smash spot.
You
like,
love betting on Li.
I love Li Jingliang at plus 200 something. Who was it? Zaleski? Is that the one I did that you couldn't believe it?
Might have been.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I don't have a good memory, Skeeter. You're supposed to remember these things.
Yeah, so Zaleski was coming back from like that blood infection. And I was like, why can't Li just knock this guy out? He's not, So, and that's exactly what Li did. It's just like, that's generally his path. Like even against D-Rod, which, I mean, that was kind of unfair. The guy was like 10 pounds heavier, like 2 days notice after the big switcheroo. But yes, it was beautiful. It was 250. It was against Pons. But at this point, like we're looking at the nightmare on the other side. I mean, while this guy is ripping darts, he's not exactly like coming back from a blood infection. It's just tobacco. You know what I mean? So Carlos Prates, the guy was training in Thailand for a long time. That's where he picked up the habit. And those guys do that shit all the time. They train, they smoke, they train, they smoke. Like it's just ingrained in his system at this point. So I think it's hilarious, and ultimately Prates here.
He said he picked it up when he was 12 on the streets in Brazil.
That's even better. That's incredible. So he just embraced the culture even more so.
He said he was like on the street with his friends, and they were like probably in the favelas in Brazil. Like somebody probably gave him a cigarette one time, and he was like, "Fuck it, let's go."
Yeah. Yes. So not that I could totally relate to that, but shout out Carlos. What? Jeez. Yeah, he really didn't want to tell me what his point was. Ultimately, I think Prates wins here. I'm just not willing to find out to parlay his money line. And I think playing inside the distance could be a little too cute depending on the price and like whether it happens like a round 1, round 2 versus a round 2, round 3, or that Li ends up actually looking good and like pulls something crazy off. So this is one of those ones where like I'm just going to enjoy the fight, I think, because I'm not taking Li here. And the price just steers me away from Prates. And the under, I think, is probably too juiced. But if everything I said about Li is true, why wouldn't it happen fast? So, yeah, here we go. Guru, are you good to provide a point here?
Yeah, I'll go with Prates round 2, round 3 KO grouping whenever I can get a hold of it. I think that's probably the way. If he takes out Li, it might take a little while.
Doug, what
it's
what do you
it's think? Like plus 290. I looked at it because I'm a Carlos Prates glazer. I will glaze this man.
A glazer?
Jay Glazer?
Meet my friend Laser. Glazer. And over here on the podcast, we got Glazer.
If you let me glaze Carlos Prates, I would.
Please go ahead. I'm gonna.
But I mean, I've been pretty high on this guy since I saw him in LFA a while ago. I've always kind of felt he was like a special type of striker in general. This seems like they haven't given him the best grappler they gave him was Charles Radke, I believe, in the UFC, who's not really a fantastic grappler in general. He's a good grappler. He's not a great wrestler though. And they're giving him another striker here. where he's going to get a striking matchup. I like Pepe's like opinions on the GTD because Prates does have like the ability to just kind of stare a lot, and Leach does have, seems to have, historically he's been pretty durable. He's been dropped in the past though. I do, however, think technically wise he's a little out of his length here with Prates, especially, or out of his depth here, like technically striking on the feet with Prates, but Prates is rather hittable. He kind of keeps his head on the center line a ton. He stands straight up, especially like inside boxing range. He doesn't have the best defense. I mean, Trevin Giles was landing on him at will, especially with the boxing. So I do think there is a path for, the Leach to land something like big on the counter. Because of that, I think the under is actually good. Under 2.5 is like minus 150 on Caesars. I really don't mind that. Prates KO around minus 110 is fine as well. If you don't see much finishing equity on the Jingliang side. So I am tempted to bet one or the other. 40 cents, for under, minus 150. I have to cap in at least some KO equity on the Leach side. So I feel like either, Prates KO could have a ton of value if he's covering at this price. Historically, he's not a great minute winner. So you have to think at a minus 110 KO price, this guy's not a great minute winner. His money line's minus 360. You'd have to think if he's hitting somewhat around his win condition, the KO prop looks massive value. The one thing with Prates that's scary is that if with playing like a GTD or overs in this fight is that it seems like whenever he chooses to go and like start fighting, shit goes downhill fast. It was like in the Giles fight, he kind of messed around and fucked around for like 7.5 minutes. And then all of a sudden he just started throwing body knees and straight lefts, and Giles was dead within a minute. And then the same thing with like the Radke fight, they're fucking around for like 3 minutes. And then all of a sudden he starts coming in. He's, messing around. He grabs his lead hand, throws a straight left down the pipe, goes, woo, and then knees him in the body, and the fight is over. So, like, that's my only concern with playing. Like, yeah, that is true. I mean, Radke, Giles, and who else has he fought? I think it was just Radke and Giles. Oh,
Mitchie.
He killed. I mean, yeah, Mitch Ramirez is not super technical, but he is pretty durable. Mm-hmm. I mean, I agree that
fight shouldn't have even been booked. What the fuck was that?
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is.
Mitch Ramirez is bottom of the barrel. But yeah, I mean, listen, Li Jingliang has been fringe top 15 for a while, and it's obvious that Prates has the juice. Like, he's got the stuff.
Yeah, I agree with the GTD being like a sharp thought, like especially based on the historical durability of the Leach. But I just kind of feel like Prates hits different, to be honest with you. So I don't really want to get in the way of that when I'm playing a GTD. So that's kind of how I feel.
Nice.
I don't blame you at all.
Yeah, I feel like it's a little too risky for me. Oh, geez. We're talking about glazing. We're talking about leeching. Oh, man, this is going to be a fun time. Really great.
Is he going to suck the aura out of him?
Ooh, he's definitely got that aura. Maybe he's kind of like, this could be like Diego Lopez, like, like related
DDP.
for him. Given the aura.
I think he's like, I think this is like a Diego Lopez DDP type of situation where people can't wait to fade this guy, and it might not come for a while.
I like that thought.
That's what she said.
Thank you guys so much. Sorry for the confusion. This is Wednesday if you are confused, but going forward, we will be live every Thursday at 8 p.m. EST. So hope you guys appreciate us for appreciating you. Keep doing your amazing thing in the chat. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. It's really fucked up, but there's one way you can fix that, and that's by doing the free and absolutely amazing thing. I might have said it about Rubelas too, so this hits home.
That was your favorite bet of all time.
I need to kill you because my other favorite one was Isaac Dolgarian, and I want to off myself because of that. So it's pretty terrible. All right, so
yeah, back-to-back weeks or some shit.
Yeah, we've got the Juggernaut Junior Tafa versus Valter, the Clean Monster Walker. By making your nickname the Clean Monster, you're just invoking more questions than there already are, Valter. And my question is, did you get on the Ozempic before this fight? I need to know. He's looking good. He's looking juicy in the Instagram vibes, thanks to what Guru sent me from someone else. I don't know, whoever, wherever. Thank you, world, for sharing it. But Valter Walker,
yo, you need to relax.
Oh man, this guy's in great shape right now. And if he could just not pull a Carl Williams and take Junior Tafa to the mat within the first 15 seconds of each of the 3 rounds, he either gets a finish at some point or just sits on top of Junior as he decides how exactly to approach this situation. So Junior, the Juggernaut Tafa, he's going to be he might be leeching from mother's milk as he sits on bottom for 15 minutes in this fight.
Wow.
So what do you got here, Guru, in this matchup of the absolutely clean monster versus the Juggernaut?
I'm pretty sure this fight is guaranteed AIDS. Like, even if you watch it, like, you're going to contract it. So
you saw what happened to his laptop. So it's like, you know.
We're back on the laptop now, baby. Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, you actually do sound better. That update did a legend.
Dude, literally, no, the Max just like you need a software update. You have complete AIDS right now, and we don't work until you update the software. You know how weird the update was? I didn't even have to reboot the laptop. Which updates are those? That's like 1 in 50 updates.
Wow.
Anyway, I like the over 1.5 here because if I'm getting AIDS guaranteed, I want as much AIDS as possible. And this is a sloppy heavyweight fight. I don't see Junior Tafa knocking him out cold in the first 10 minutes. And I don't see Valter Walker being fast enough, getting enough like ground and pound early. Like, it's going to take Junior Tafa getting tired. This fight's going over. So that's how I feel. It really would take Junior Tafa coming out.
Why are you saying his name that way?
Junior Tafa.
No, you're saying Tafa. You're adding an R at the end every time. What's happening?
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you did, man. I don't know what just happened there.
Junior Tafa. Okay. Anyway, it would take Junior Tafa coming out to like just unbelievable vibes, and he just comes out and kills Valter within 2 minutes. I just don't really see it because he's going to eat a couple of those leg kicks and then start pushing for the ground. And if he can't get it to the ground, which I'm not sure how often he will be able to, he'll just push him up against the cage. It's going over. This is super sloppy bullshit. Give me some AIDS. How bad was that breakdown, Dogfather? Scale 1 to 10.
It was great. I thought it was fantastic. I thought I'm sorry that your computer has the Magic Johnson effect, but hopefully the Magic Johnson update worked as well. So
it's really got more of that easy E, honestly. It's on its way out.
Oh my god.
Oh Lord.
But yeah, I actually I like Tafa in the matchup, to be honest. I betted at -105. Shout out to CLV. That's scary. I don't like getting CLV sometimes, but I thought -105 was good. I give him a lot of the upside in this matchup, largely because I think the cardio gap is I think there's like a reasonable cardio gap here. And I do think there's like a massive striking edge. So if you're going to let Lucas Bresky land on you big on the feet and get visibly rocked, I'm pretty concerned with Walker as this fight gets extended. And if it does get extended, normally you'd favor the wrestler grappler. But because of how poor his cardio seems to be, it's hard for me to favor him in an extended fight with a kickboxer who has shown that he does have decent cardio in round 3. Like going back to the Usman fight, which was kind of why I made the bet in the first place, he gets pretty much grappled for the whole period of the fight, pops up in round 3 with like 20, 25 seconds left, breaks off the cage and just wings bombs on him. So I know his get-up game is terrible. It's absolutely awful. But his first-line takedown defense isn't the worst. Obviously, he could end up on bottom here, which is the biggest concern. But I do think even if this gets into round 2 or round 3, he's still like live to land a big punch. and swing rounds and swing momentum. So I like Tafa here in the matchup. I think, I think he should be capped at like 60% to 65% personally, largely because I give him most of the upside in this matchup. And he could land a big shot, a big KO shot at any point over 15 minutes and end this fight. I know that Walker looks durable. He looks durable, but when you're getting affected by a guy who hits as hard as Lucas Bresky, I have concerns.
You bring up a good point.
Wait a minute. You're telling me the guy related to Johnny Walker calls himself the Clean Monster might be fraudulent? You're telling me he may not be a dog? Is that what you're kind of trying to say?
I actually don't mind Walker at all, to be honest, because there's a lot to be said for 6'6" heavyweights who are 6'6", who are who are massive and they're 26 years old and they know how to wrestle. That's a pretty specialized skill set for this division. I do think, though, there are things that he needs to work on, and I do think he's a little green for the UFC. I think both of these guys are a little green for the UFC. I think they should have rounded out their skill set, I think, for another 2-3 years on the regionals before they came in here, but because of their names, they're here. If their names were not Tafa or Walker on the back end, they wouldn't be here. They would have been in Dana White's Contender Series in 2 years, 3 years. So I do think both guys have some upside because they both, have some really positive characteristics. Tafa has great durability and like a high-level kickboxing background. Walker's massive and he knows how to wrestle at heavyweight, which are both, pretty big-time skill sets for this division.
Yeah.
I do think they're both pretty young and green and they need to round out their skill set a bit.
Because you raise a lot of interesting points, and the being green point I think is one of the ones that stands out to me, especially because Valter Walker has more wins than Junior Tafa has fights, and then you add in the pressure of fighting at home of 60,000 people against a guy that may be tough enough to take some of your best shots and will try to wrestle. I don't know, man. I just don't think he can get up.
For
I
sure.
know his initial takedown defense is good just because he's athletic, but if he hits Valter hard enough, Valter's going to have enough motivation. If you know, what I mean.
He's going to shoot. He's definitely going to shoot. But then, the argument goes back to damage versus control. How much is he really going to do on top?
Nothing. He's not going to do anything. But Junior's going to do even less on bottom, and he's not even going to look to get up. Because he doesn't even use butterflies, right? Like he just fucking lays there.
The Motor Usman fight lives on in my mind forever.
Yeah, and Motor Usman has the motor of a '69 Oldsmobile that hasn't gotten an oil change in 20 years. Like
it's better than Walker's for sure.
That's for sure.
Oh, we sure? Enough. He's the Clean Monster. He's taking Ozempic now.
We'll see.
Well, there will be a lot to be said this week. It seems like Walker's lost some weight. I think somebody said he lost 10 kilos.
Yeah, he looked lighter. And again, to your point, he's young. Can we expect him? Again, he's still related to Johnny Walker, but can we expect him to make improvements fight to fight? Maybe more than the average fighter because he's young.
I would say yes and no. I think he could. However, because of his limited athleticism, I don't really think it. He's big and lumbering. He just kind of knows how to shoot a double leg, and that's about it. If he had a little bit more athleticism, I'd be more bullish, but he just kind of seems big and lumbering and slow. So losing 12 kilograms is great, but he's still going to be a slow lumbering heavyweight.
Yeah. You want AIDS? You got it.
All right. We've got, talk about the next matchup here. We got Josh Culibao at -142 versus Pretty Ricky, Ricardo Ramos at +120. Over 2.5 -130, under 2.5
Worst nickname, boo, as usual. The one you finally sneak in, the first one you add of the night, it's absolute dog shit.
Why?
Complete hot dog water of a fucking nickname.
Look at that guy. He's got all the looks you could ever want. Come on.
Pretty Ricky is Ricky Tercios. It's terrible.
No, he's Hadouken.
Yeah, but he's still Pretty Ricky.
No, he's not. He's way uglier than this Ricky.
That's why he's Pretty Ricky.
All right, so we got in this matchup here, Mr. Culibao coming in versus Ricardo Ramos.
And wait a minute, Ricardo Ramos has a nickname, and it's Brazilian. It's Portuguese. So you have to fucking say it.
What?
Caratinha. Caracachina.
I don't know. It's not on UFC stats, so it doesn't exist.
Well, go to Tabology.
No, screw that. I wouldn't do that.
It's Brazil. What do you mean?
We don't take kindly to your type around here.
The people prefer your Spanish saying, your Portuguese saying to your shitty nicknames. Even I prefer that.
I speak Spanish, not Portuguese. That's racist. Thank you very much.
Whatever, but when you're reading the names, they're still Portuguese. Or as I said before, Brazilian.
Yeah. Well, anywho, I think the ultimate question here. No. I didn't even look it up because I'm not doing that anytime in my life.
I'm adding it to the notes.
All right. So, Mr. Kuya and Pretty Ricky, here we go. It's pretty terrible.
No.
I think. Yeah, it is. What, you're going to deny that this is pretty terrible? Because ultimately,
this fight is pure AIDS. Did anybody see my tweet this week? I was like, this fight is just giving me agita. It's like, how the fuck?
My word, it's like this guy, he's got to come up with like something new every once in a while. When you use the same terminology for every fight, it just loses its luster a little bit, just a little bit. But Ricardo Ramos here, I think agita was good, though. That was a pretty solid one. Pretty Ricky, because I want to give it to you. I think he's just very undependable. Like, you don't know what you're going to get from a game plan perspective sometimes, and you don't know what you're going to get from a heart perspective almost all the time. And Culibao, while he's a bit underwhelming from a defensive wrestling approach occasionally, while, against bigger guys, against better athletes, he can struggle here and there. It's like, this is just kind of like one of those matchups where I can actually understand him being a little bit of a favorite. And as the line gets closer throughout the week, I get further and further tempted to look at taking Culibao. However, it's like, well, what do the first couple minutes of the fight look like? And it's like, well, Ramos could totally be landing a takedown early or two. He could totally be getting back takes and near submissions. But what if that doesn't convert, right? So if you take like Ramos round one sub or round one finish because spinning elbow, I guess that I would say that there's more equity in that type of aspect versus thinking that he's going to go out here over 3 rounds and consistently give it to you flying across the world when he's missed weight horribly in the past and just had all these different circumstances. I just couldn't. I feel like Josh Culibao, for all of his misgivings, he's a fighter. The time he gets finished coming up is short notice, up a weight class versus Jalen Turner. That's not really fair. And he hurts his ankle too, so he doesn't even get to use any of his mobility to try to survive. He's just a sitting duck by round 2. So I feel like Culibao probably gets my money here, minus 142. And I think it could be interesting just looking at like an under 2.5 at plus 100 because Ramos's win equity is going to be early. And if not, I don't see him wanting to stick around for too long because Culibao's boxing is actually decently solid. That's one thing that he does have going for him. I know he doesn't have a ton of finishes at the UFC level, but he's opportunistic and he's a solid enough fighter. I don't think he's great. So I'm a little hesitant to dive fully in. I think there's some fun ways to look at this fight though.
I don't know. He doesn't have a lot of finishes at any level. And I don't know. His level before the UFC was extremely suspect. I don't know, man. His split decision over Sungwoo Choi, that's a rough one. The Roan Murphy loss, we can give him the pass for. The Jalen Turner one, we can give him the pass for. It's fine. I don't know. At the same time, for Ramos, the fight I'm really looking to and what I'm looking for him to replicate is the Billy Algeo fight. Similar guy in Josh Culibao, long, lanky, decent pace, but doesn't really have the best defensive takedown defense or grappling like that. And let's be honest, Charles Jourdain, Julian Erosa, these guys are long, strong, and unbelievably savvy grapplers. It's just like one of their X factors is their ability be unpredictable and, just kind of snatch shit. And that's exactly what they did versus Ramos. Both round 1 guillotine chokes, while Ricardo Ramos is doing what I want him to do in this fight, which is go for takedowns. So it's funny because when you look at Josh Culibao, he got the fucking rear naked choke versus Melsik Bagdasaryan. I'm like, you bastard. You whipped it out recently, didn't you? But I just don't think that Melsik is even nearly the level of grappler that Ricardo Ramos is, or even probably the level of fighter. So I do kind of lean the dog, but Josh at home is just enough to make me have just want to chill, not really want to do anything. So yeah, I just don't trust Ricky at the end of the day, which is the truth. So I'm going to end up probably passing the fight. And after face-offs, I'll probably end up with Josh. But what do you think, Dogfather?
I have a bet on Ramos, pretty small at plus 145. I played it to win a unit. I think Culibao has been somewhat fortunate in his UFC career. He's been dropped several times. There's a reason. I believe he had the draw with Charles Jourdain where he got dropped pretty bad. Or did he drop Jourdain? And I don't know, but it was like a back and forth war. He got dropped by Silva bad. He got controlled, pretty much dominated by Lerone Murphy in the grappling. So I do think he's the better striker here. He's, more accurate, long punches. He seems more comfortable on the feet. Ramos doesn't really seem to be super comfortable on the feet or like being hit or like adversity in general. Let's be real. The line is, he dropped Jourdain. Okay, thank you. Yeah, well, he got dropped by Silva in his last fight, big time bad, and kind of fought back. I thought he lost pretty clearly 2-1 there, but I don't think that was the greatest performance ever. He got rocked by Lerone, obviously, who's a pretty solid striker. I'm not so, stuck on the striking for Culibao. I do think he's the better striker. But yeah, it just comes down to Ramos having a pretty reasonable grappling edge here. And he can probably land back takes and swing rounds and, control minutes and win minutes with the grappling. He'll go for takedowns. And, Culibao is not the best defensive grappler, to be honest. And if Ramos goes to it like he did in the Algeo fight, this looks massive value. Outside of him being a flake, if, the Jourdain and the Arosa fights, you just erase them from your memory, he's probably minus 200 here, to be honest. And I'm willing to.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel like everybody's laughing at me. That's kind of how I feel.
I'm willing. I mean, that's why he's the underdog, right? So that's why Julian Erosa was plus 220 to Christian Rodriguez. That's why Julian Erosa was plus 160 to Ricardo Ramos, is because the obvious is that he has a bad chin. The obvious here is that Ricardo Ramos has, he's a flake. And at the end of the day, if you're going to give me the price here on the more skilled guy at nearing 40%, I'm going to take that. Pretty much 10 out of 10 times for my process. So simple as that.
Wow.
It's a scary, it's a scary bet. It's a scary bet, right? But
those are the best ones.
But at the end of the day, for me, it's the upside, right, is Ramos looks like a 65-70% favorite if he's getting back takes.
Yeah.
And Culibao's giving it up. It's not like I haven't seen it with my own.
He gave it up three times versus Danny Silva, one in each round. If Ramos gets in those positions, he's subbing them.
Or at least controlling position. Well, I mean, Lerone was getting to dominant position as well. So when I have that big of in my opinion, a grappling path that somebody's shown that he's gotten submitted because he's going to the grappling, I'm gonna take him as an underdog. I'm okay with losing my bet. It's just something you can't go big on because the downside is he literally is the biggest flake in the world and dies to a straight right hand immediately. And that's okay. I'm okay. I can live with that.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah.
I love the way you break that down.
We've got King Casey O'Neill versus Luana Weight Watcher Santos.
That's
much better than Banana, right? I did my job this time. So King Casey.
I blocked that out of my memory. You called her Banana?
Yeah, I did 2 times in a row.
Oh my.
Yeah, this was.
Wait, why'd you call her Banana?
I don't
She's
know.
an
Just
idiot.
kind of rhyme with Luana.
No.
Oh, Luana Banana.
Yeah. I
No,
don't
it's
know.
terrible.
Yes, thank you.
And she's got yellow on too.
Exactly. It was calling my name. You know what I mean? And think about, all right. Anyway, so King Casey O'Neill here, plus 130. Luana at minus 155. So we jumped in at minus 150. It slid to minus 180. It's back to minus 155. There seems to be a lot of jumping around here. So a lot of people get on the Casey O'Neill train from a bet perspective as she pushed out to like plus 150 territory. Ultimately, I think it comes down to like physicality and grappling edge. And I think O'Neill has been outmaneuvered early by a vast majority of her opponents. And she tends to like pick it up, turn it on. But if the opponent is just straight up better than her, it doesn't look so clean. And even, you look at Roxanne Modafferi fight, like it wasn't close per se, right? Not anything like that. It's just like, how do you let Roxanne touch you that many times, right? How do you let her get a
I
couple?
don't want
takedowns
Roxanne to
on
touch
you?
me ever.
Yeah, exactly. You got to be more careful. Come on, you're letting Roxy get close.
She couldn't pay to touch me.
Are you sure about that? Your computer is being touched all the time.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness. She touched my computer. Why do you think I'm going to let her touch me? That's what happened.
I don't know. It's a good question. Maybe you're like the doppelganger of
Casey. Listen, Casey O'Neill, Luana Santos, totally different story.
Yeah, this is a good
Roxanne,
matchup.
no.
This is a good matchup from a lot of perspectives. So over 2.5 at minus 220, it's a bit juiced. And I'm curious, like, do we get there?
I'm a bit juiced, if you know what I mean.
Oh, baby. But I got some money on Santos here. I think she's got a bit of the physicality. O'Neill, I think if she tries to get to the wrestling here, it's not going to work in her favor from a grappling perspective. Santos is willing to throw down and go to war. And I don't think O'Neill's kind of like Juliana Miller vibes, but at the same time, like with Juliana Miller and Maria Agapova, Luana Santos shows that she knows how to take out the trash. So I think she can handle the mid. You know what I mean?
No, I don't.
I think she's got this handled. Like, I think her striking instincts look slightly better on the feet as she goes fight per fight. You can see in the Agapova fight, she's using a little bit of like in and out movement and a little bit of feinting at least. And that's definitely, an improvement from kind of what we were seeing around the Egger era, and I think like offensively, she's fine. It's just, is she going to keep adding to her defensive aspect of striking? And I at least saw like a step in that direction. And her judo and grappling are just on another level than O'Neill's. And she's able to match her size and physicality, which the majority of 125ers can't. That's something that Casey generally has on her opponents.
To me, the big thing and why I'm on Luana Santos here, it's not just what I think will be competitive striking. To me, it's the judo from Luana Santos. The head and arm throws, the top control, the grappling, I do think it's a higher level than Casey O'Neill's.
Well, I mean, I think the interesting point is that if you go back to the Lipsky fight, she got judo tossed bad from an overhook too.
Thank you. Beautiful. Even better. Dogfather, you're the fucking best. Yeah, exactly. I just think it's a weakness for Casey O'Neill. I'm not sure that she's fixed it yet. And if you look at the matchup they were giving her, Teresa Bleda, like, bro, they don't give a fuck. They don't care who you are. They don't care how good they thought you were. They don't care if it's in your hometown. Yeah, you want to fight at home? Okay, we're giving you another fucking grappler. Enjoy. They make you pay the price for the shit that you want. I'm telling you. And this is a tough matchup for Casey O'Neill, in my opinion. And I really like the fact that Luana Santos is taking the fun fight only a month later. Why? Because you watched in between the Egger fight and Agapova fight, she got out of shape bad. Hence the Weight Watchers nickname there, which is hilarious. She's basically stayed in camp for this one. She took no damage versus Agapova. I'm sure that this fight they knew, I think, was already going to be off or was close to being off. And they basically booked Santos right away. So she probably celebrated her win and got right back to work. And yeah, it looks in great shape from what I've seen. So let's go. What do you got there, Dogfather? Are you taking the dog on this one?
No, I don't have interest in O'Neal unless it's live personally.
Oh, you don't have any interest in O'Neal? Come on, man.
No. No. But I do think the pace upside for O'Neal could really be a factor here. I think she has better cardio and she just kind of keeps coming on late and doesn't really, for lack of a better term, fuck off when she is, optimizing her win condition. She kind of just breaks these girls late. And we've seen Luana slow down in fights pretty heavily from throwing big shots and not really, it's just still being, in my opinion, still being green in the striking and just kind of winging overhands and cage pushing and going for big judo toss movements and stuff. So I do think there's some upside in O'Neal, especially late here in this fight to possibly have the ability to break Santos or win the late rounds. Add in the fact that she is on short notice. I know that she was in camp. I know she probably still is in shape and pretty much took no damage. So I'm not really super concerned. The reason why I'm not taking a bet on O'Neal here is because I am concerned that Santos is improving at a rapid rate because I do really rate her athleticism and her physicality. I rate her, grittiness too. I think she isn't the type of girl that will flake to O'Neal. So we've kind of seen that in the past. It's just if O'Neal gets to dominant position late in this fight, that's where I'm concerned. I think round 3 near the end there with Edgar on Santos's back like that is that would be like D-Day if I had a Santos bet and it's like late in round 2 and O'Neal is, lands a takedown or catches a kick and falls on top, or Santos like scuffs a judo throw and ends up on bottom, and then O'Neal is on top with like a minute and a half left in round 2, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh shit. And when O'Neal gets on top, she's mean. So that's what's keeping me off, is because I just don't know if I just don't know what this looks like if O'Neal does get on top. It's late in this fight. Santos kind of has, worn herself down a little bit by, throwing big actions, doing big judo tosses, scuffing them, trying to push up push O'Neal up against the cage and going a little too hard. So my biggest concern is that for Santos, but I am staying off O'Neal because I kind of feel like Santos could have a lot of upside. She's 24. She could clean up a lot of this stuff. And if somebody's like blowing all the way out to like 140 pounds when they're a 125er, I have to figure it could almost just be a discipline issue just as much as it could be a cardio issue. So that's why I'm staying away, because O'Neal might not have as much pace upside as people think. So I lean, that this line's probably accurate, but like to me, this is really hard for me to get a read on. So I'm just passing altogether. I do think the under could have some value. Personally, Santos is like a surprisingly decent finisher. But my concern is I don't know at this level if she's a decent finisher. Right? She's finished Ogapova and Juliana Miller at this level. Two fighters that, in my opinion, aren't UFC level at this point. So I just don't know. Like, this is just a really, really hard read for me. And like, I wanted to bet O'Neal so bad. I saw plus 150 and I was like, oh shit, there's no way that's right. And then I taped the fight and I just have concerns about and like, as you guys said, I have the biggest concerns about the physicality here. That's my issue. Like, even if Santos is tired, could she just cage push O'Neal for like 2 minutes? Like, I feel like that's a possibility. So I'm just going to stay away.
Yeah, smart man. Smart man. Had to take a little dip on the.
Hey, listen, Casey O'Neal essentially at home, though. I don't see an Australian flag there. I don't know what flag that is. But,
she's Scottish.
Scottish, but like I feel like doesn't she have roots in Australia though?
Her father is the promoter. I think he's the promoter or owner of Eternal MMA, which is the most prominent.
Right.
Yeah, he's the most. So he probably knows like all of the athletic commission in Australia, and he's probably well tied in. So I'll just leave it at that.
100%. Like, it was definitely. Like, she's definitely, it's a huge hometown fight. She's lost 2 in a row. Is she gonna lose 3? It's just really, it's her back's up against the wall for sure.
Thank you, Aussie fight fan.
She's basically Australian. That's why I was shocked that her flag's
Yeah,
from Australia.
she lived in Perth for a while. She's been in Las Vegas and Arizona though for an extended period now.
Yeah,
I got
and
confused.
she got back a couple weeks ago.
I got confused when I saw a flag I didn't recognize. So,
alrighty, we've got Jack Farr Jenkins versus Herbert the Blaze Burns.
Jack Jenkins round 2 KO next.
It could be round 1 at some point.
Maybe over 2.5 minutes. It takes 2.5 minutes though. Herbert Burns will fight like his life depends on it for about 2.5 minutes. But like he kicks Herbert Burns in the balls. Like he can't grapple. He can't get it to the ground. He can't fucking do anything. Like he sucks.
Jack Jenkins.
He's done after this. Jack Jenkins gonna kick his fucking leg off. It's over.
Most likely, unless he refractures his arm, but unless that happens, and
do you see Chepe in the Burns. Unless he ends up across from fucking Chepe, the boy, Machine Gun, the Savage, like fucking Herbert Burns isn't doing shit.
It's round 1 sub or bust, and I'm not taking round 1 sub. So
Pepe, I'll bet you a shot. Pepe, I'll bet a shot at Jameson. He does not get a sub now or ever again in his professional MMA career.
Jenkins is a shit grappler, but will he let him get there? That's the question. And if he does, you're probably clenching your butthole, Guru, as you have to shell out a shot of Jameson. Dogfather, you got anything on this one?
It's got to be Burns round 1 sub, no matter what.
Yep.
It has to be. You have to bet it. It's gonna be like plus. It's like plus 2,500. Like, dude,
it's his win condition
for the culture.
Yeah, fuck that. I'm gonna bet that. Like, I'm gonna bet that.
All of it.
Who cares? Yeah,
all of it.
Plus 2,500. How wrong? Like, I've been wrong before. I'll tell you. But plus 2,500. How wrong can I be? I can't be that fucking wrong.
No, I'll tell you exactly how much win condition. Give me a second.
It's like 1.5, 2% probably.
No, but I mean in terms of like actually for his career for him.
I mean I think it's probably like 50%.
Yeah. Maybe more. No, it's more. It's more. He has 11 career fights, 2 decision wins, right? 7 round 1 finishes, guys. 11 wins, 7 round 1 finishes. It's more than half. It's all his equity. It's all.
What about the KO of Nate the Train? So that's 6 by way of submission. You son of a bitch.
No, he's saying like
right?
7. He said 7 first round finishes though, not.
No, 7. I know, but we were talking about round 1 sub at plus 2,500. So I wanted the specific analysis.
Well, he's not knocking out Jenkins. Like, what are you talking?
I will say Nate the Train loves to get hurt in like the first round of every fight.
It's how he wakes up. He's like, I was just getting started. I didn't hear no
ass and see what happens.
Yeah, amazing.
Or no, what he says, beat my ass and see what happens.
And we got to see him live in Atlantic City, and we were stupid enough to not bet on him. It was amazing.
Beat my ass
was so sad.
Look at this bicep.
Woo!
Look at this. Oh wait, wrong way. Look at this bicep.
Oh my god,
I love it. He's the man.
All right.
We also got to see Herbert Burns live, which was horrible.
But yeah, that's well. I'll add though that from like an actual like realistic betting perspective of this fight, my good pal, good friend, 1.57%. Look at me, 1.5 to 2%, dude. Come on.
Yeah, you were on the ball.
You have to know. You have to bet it. Of course, it's just we would have said for the culture, but I was too busy saying that.
Yeah. Like who? Like yeah. Well, I mean, who cares? Who cares? I mean, if it hits, I go on vacation. If it doesn't hit, who cares?
We laugh. It's literally hilarious.
We laugh and we smile, and I move on. But like my friend and compadre and acquaintance, Big Steve MMA, he broke this down in a very funny way. Jack Jenkins is a guy who's like a death by 1,000 cuts, and Herbert Burns, it takes a paper cut. So
yeah, that's funny.
It's essentially that for me. The issue is like, is this under going? Because I really want to bet the under. Like I really, really have been tempted on betting this under. But my only issue is with guys like this who pull guard. you're going to have one of those tilting scenarios where Burns is getting his cap absolutely chewed up. And every single time he lands a calf kick, Burns is going to fall over on his back like this and go to like do jujitsu. And then Keith Peterson's going to be standing there like, all right, get up. And Burns is going to slowly get to his feet. And there'll be 20 seconds gone, 30 seconds gone before they actually start fighting again. And I could see this just being like the most tilting under bet of all time. So I'm really trying to like hold off from doing this because I don't think Jenkins is the type of guy that's just going to one punch KO Burns because of how he fights. So like I lean under because there could be a ton of value, especially with Burns' win condition being in round 1 and the possibility of this ending under 1.5. But I am worried that like Jenkins just drags this fight on, and it's just the most stressful thing I've ever imagined in my entire life. So I really don't want to have like a unit or two on this under, and I'm watching Herbert Burns just slowly die, and then it's like 2:10 of round 2, and I've lost my money, and I'm pissed. So I'm gonna avoid it, I think.
Have you heard about Grandma's couch cushion? Dogfather.
That's a good question.
So we play the. What about this? We play the under. But then maybe a little Jenkins round 2 sprinkled to cover if it goes over like 2 minutes, and call and just say, "Fuck it," and maybe we double dip and win both.
Little double dipper action.
You know I like to thread the needle.
He's a big time needler.
We could thread.
That
Could be the needle. That could be the needle that needs to be threaded.
And if there was 2 gentlemen that could do it, I can't trust you guys anymore. And we also trust in Grandma's couch because sometimes if you don't feel comfortable putting something big on it, just go over to Grandma's house, dig through her cushions, you'll find a few coins, and you put it down for the culture. So, yeah, you never know. Jenkins' striking could be pretty shit besides his kicks. Maybe he's not a solid black belt like Pepe's saying. Yeah, let's see. Could be a full Brundage. So the KO, TKO, DQ. Ooh, but Burns is the one that was yam bagooing all of the friends out there. Shout out
You're
to
a yam bagoo.
So that would be me. I love a good bagoo. Well, we've got big train Tom Nolan. He's got trains on the mind. Thomas the Tank Engine versus
Does that
Alex.
mean he's autistic?
Maybe versus Alex the Executioner Reyes. I say this, I probably have just a touch of myself. So just a touch of the tism, but we're having fun. Tom Nolan, big train, minus 1,200. Alex the Executioner Reyes at plus 750.
What a shitty nickname.
Yeah.
The only execution he's walking to is his own.
I just wasn't even my fault, so it's his own damn fault, dang it. Yeah, and realistically, I mean, didn't he kind of like touch Charlie a little bit? Charlie Campbell? Didn't he give him a little saucy sauce before he died?
No, not
yes,
really.
He did. He gave him a little taste.
No, not really.
Yes, he did.
No, not a little bit.
Yes,
Charlie just has no striking defense.
You love Goblin Charlie anyways.
I do love Charlie, but Charlie just has no striking defense. He just loves to
Okay, what does Tom Nolan have? So if you're taking the Herbert Burns round 1 shot, how are you not also taking the execution round 1 execution?
You know what? You're right. I just really wasn't prepared for this level of AIDS today. I didn't realize how rampant HIV was in Australia. Did you know? Did you know that, Dogfather?
They've got kangaroos. They've got koalas.
Apparently, kangaroos
this is what they've also
infested with HIV.
Infested.
What is that about?
Unbelievable.
Did they infect Tom Nolan? Does anybody know? Did we get any scouting on this?
Good question, Dogfather. Did you have any inside info?
Not that I know of. They need a vaccine though.
Right.
They need to fly in Fauci and fucking drop the vaccine.
You just need to sleep next to $50,000, $500,000 cash. Remember?
That's all.
You didn't see that episode of South Park?
It's just money.
No.
You gotta watch that episode of South Park. It's a classic.
So, as we went completely off the rails, as Mr. Big Train would not be happy about,
He'd like this. He'd like us to keep it on track.
Yes,
for sure.
Yes,
Certainly.
Mr. Yeah, Big Train. So what do you guys? I don't know.
Oh my
anything
God, Big
different?
Train
It's
wants to keep it
disgusting.
on track. Stop.
Yes,
That's
yes,
crazy.
yes.
You get
That's
that?
deep.
Yeah, you just caught that. It took you like an extra 10 seconds.
This is what happens. He only half pays attention, and then it clicks. You know.
I was looking at live betting the Brewers against the Dodgers.
You have a.
But yeah, I mean, who cares? I don't care about this fight at all. To be honest with you. So yeah, that's it. I do appreciate Tom.
Is that
Nolan.
Tom from MySpace?
I was gonna ask the same thing.
Tom, is that you?
Or is it Tom Nolan?
Dogfather, I'm so sorry. You were giving a breakdown,
right.
which is what we brought you here for. I'm sorry.
I do. I do appreciate Tom Nolan though. Like he's the. I've bet like every single under that he's ever fought. Like Dana White's Contender Series, I bet the under in his first fight at like -200 against Moda. I bet the massively juiced under against Martinez at like -250. I'm not a big parlay guy. Like I only have so many bets a week. I just bet him straight at like -200 because, I mean, I don't care at the end of the day. Like if it's value, it's value. I do think that people are going to say that Nolan's chinny. I don't think he's chinny. I just think he has like terrible striking defense. I made the
Nice, Tom. Nice.
That's so funny. But I made the comparison that like Nolan's going to be like a Steve Garcia type of guy. I think that's his ceiling in the UFC. Just an absolute bonk lord fighter. Where he could probably go in and kill anybody on any given day and also get killed at the same time. Because of like his physicality, his size, his power, the variety of the striking that he does have. He seems like an okay grappler. Reyes, I mean, it's just hard to know. He's actually not the worst striker. I mean, he seems fine. Him getting steamrolled by Campbell, I don't really feel that bad. He actually almost survived the first round, which was pretty surprising. And I do rate Campbell in terms of the striking aggressiveness and crispness a higher level than Nolan, especially when Campbell gets it going. So I do think that this underprice feels accurate. Like I want to play it, but I probably won't. Maybe if it takes like mega steam on the over, I'll play it at like -2xx. But honestly, like now that everybody like has caught up to the Nolan unders probably being closer to 80% cap, 75 to 80% cap. Now we're getting a similar price. It was like -350. I guess action's coming in on the over now. To be honest with you, if it gets to a price where I can get like -150 to fight ends in round one, I'll get there. Because I do think Nolan can steamroll him. And that's pretty much as simple as it gets. I mean, it's hard for me not to envision Nolan just truck sticking him over in round one. So
what's the under 2.5 minutes? I feel like DraftKings will give me that under 0.5 rounds. Under 0.5.
It'll be like +100.
Yeah, I'll take it. It could be fun. If not, we're in for a hell of a ride on the big train. So, wow. The Assassin, Song Kenan versus the Gladiator, Ricky Glenn. These guys are ready for battle against each other. Ricky Glenn moving up a weight class here at a seasoned 35 years of age. But I mean, Song, you know, he's not looking like too much of a spring chicken himself, I'd say, you know, so it's interesting. Do we expect any wrestling? Is Song just going to knock him out round one and Glenn is retiring in front of his, you know, in front of his country folk? Or, you know, I'm just not sure exactly what happens here from that perspective. But Tom from MySpace, he likes Song here. That's an incredible move to change your photo midstream. Really, I feel like we made our mark on society here for Tom. The Assassin at -170, +142 for the Gladiator. Man, I just feel like no matter what you choose here, you're probably going to end up being wrong. I think the over 1.5 is kind of tasty.
I'm not going to be wrong. You might be wrong because you smell, but I'm not going to be wrong.
Over 1.5, -145. I think we got some
easy money
vibes here.
Easy fucking money. I love that bet. I love the overs in this fight. This was one of my favorite fights to cap this week for some stupid reason. I came away on Ricky Glenn plus 170. I took what did I bet? I put 2 units on him at the moment. I can cash out partially. I can cash out fully if I so decide. Whatever. Ricky Glenn moving up weight. I really feel like, of course, he could just get bonked in a minute, which is fine. But Song Kenan doesn't. Of course, he dropped Ian Gary, which is basically his claim to fame. But I just don't really see him as with that kind of power to put down Ricky Glenn here. With him obviously adding 15 pounds to stop dying in these weight cuts. The dude's fucking huge. So he's not outsized in this fight at all. I love that. The pace is about the same and his defense is actually better. So come on, Ricky, go get it done at home. And I do think that this fight goes over. So yeah, I mean, again, plus 170, got a little CLV here. I like it. Tell me why I'm wrong, Dogfather.
I'll be honest. This was when I saw this matchup, I said, fuck this. I'm not looking at this shit at all. And I haven't yet. So I'm the complete opposite of you. But you make some valid points. I mean, Song's obviously like a massive fade at this price. Like every single day of the week, Song Kenan at minus 170 cannot be the answer. Never, ever, ever. Like, congratulations on beating Rolando McDonald Bedoya, but I'm not really impressed.
What a nickname!
That's amazing.
TV. You're coming on for every show. I'm done with TV. That was the best nickname I ever heard, and you just freestyled that.
I've been calling him that for a long time. Actually, I've always because I faded him with Song, and I almost faded him with Herbert, but he's always been Rolando McDonald Bedoya to me.
That's amazing.
I love it.
So, yeah, I mean, it's just never Song at this price, like you said. And I want to get to it. Like, I want to obviously like get into this fight and tape it a little bit more. So now that you're giving me a bullish statement that you've actually put like more than a unit on a wash Ricky Glenn up a weight class, that makes me a little bit more bullish to go in and look at tape. Normally, in my opinion, when I'm betting on a fighter that I have major concerns about their, I guess their willingness to come in and collect a paycheck and, just lose and pretty much be done. I tend to favor live betting because we see all these wash fighters come out here in what we assume to be the end of their career, and they look absolutely terrible, a la Brian Kelleher, a la Tony Ferguson, and you end up making a bet on pre, and then you're watching the fight, and you're like, holy shit, what did I do to myself? Why did I do this to myself? Why? And I sometimes just would rather avoid that and just live bet, so it'll be a fight that I tape. I think Song is a pretty patient striker, so I like the overplay just from like a high level perspective. I'll look into it more though, and yeah, I'll probably want to live bet Glenn probably after 2 minutes, and he'll probably get clipped with a left hook and die. So no matter what.
And then you can blame me and then not talk to me anymore and never.
No, that'll be my fault. That'll be my fault.
No, we're gonna. I don't know why I like this one so much. I feel like
so I guess the question is, how do you see what's Ricky's path here in this matchup if you're bullish on it?
Decisionating. I love threading the needle. He has to win it. He's not knocking. There's nobody's getting a finish. Obviously, If anybody, I really do. Of course, that's why he's the favorite. I think if anybody's getting a finish, it's probably Kenan. I get that. He's shown a little bit more power. He probably has more power, and Ricky Glenn's got no chin. And he's trying to save his career. I get all of it, but I just feel like they're giving him like a winnable fight here. Like they did not throw him to the wolves like they could have and have done in the past.
They gave him Drew Dober.
That's what I'm saying.
What was
they
that?
literally because they wanted him to die. They're like they sent him out to pasture. It was horrible.
This might be dirty laundry, but I bet Dover at like minus 400 huge. Like I had like a max bet on Dover at minus 400.
And it was the easiest thing you've ever cashed.
Yeah. I mean, I was like, I don't know how this loses.
Yeah.
Dover had to like tear his ACL for him to lose that fight. That's like that's why I bet it. But
yeah, I think the hope is if Glenn is getting some wrestling going, he attempts way more takedowns at distance than Song does. It's just he's been controlled and faced a lot of takedowns on his own end, whereas Song, he's not going to offer that threat. So I think Glenn, I mean, per minute 5 minutes at distance, he's shooting over 2 more takedowns in that time period. It's just he's been taken down 44. I'm sorry, he's been taken down 14 times out of 44 attempts on the Glenn side. But overall, like, yeah, he spends a decent amount of time being controlled, but he still has a high control rate himself. I think that the grappling edge should be enough to potentially get us to a greasy decision. But yeah, like Guru was telling me, let's get on a little early line movement. So if anything, we'll just blame him. It's all good. So.
Because honestly,
yeah,
and
I
think
some of his control grappling stats that I feel like could be skewed because of the Dawson fight, where he was like largely controlled for the first 2 rounds and then broke him like really bad, like broke him bad.
Yeah.
In round 3. So that was sick. That was sick. I remember watching that fight because Glenn gets up and he's like, "I beat your ass."
Yeah.
Like after the fight, he was like,
nasty.
he was like, "You know, I beat your ass." You know, like that was dope. I was like, "Damn, this guy's cool." And then he had a 3-year layoff and got nuked 2 times in a row. So that was fun.
Yeah, that was great.
No USADA, maybe, a little juicy juices in action up here. Another weight class. Maybe he was killing himself at the same exact height and reach as Kenan Song to make the lower weight class. And now he's getting an extra 15 pounds going from 155 to 170. I mean, he's got plenty of room for Mike's secret, water to Michael's secret
anyway,
stuff, right?
I gotta be honest, and this is why I really found myself on the dog. It was also because I was waiting for the distance props to go up and wanted to see where the line went. But I really felt, again, in my handicap, I just felt like very fairly confident that this fight would go the distance as long as Glenn didn't get nuked round 1. So of course everything can be hedged with the tiniest sprinkle of Kenan round 1 KO. That's fine. So with that all being understood, I felt very confident that the fight would go the distance, and that when it went the distance, that it would be a fairly competitive, similarly paced fight where the home dog would, at dog money, would obviously is a dog, would have would be worth it. So
round 1 KO is plus 325 on Bet Online.
That's horrible.
Yeah. So good luck. All right, we've got Stewart, aka Stewie, aka his own nickname Kakamora, Nicoll. It's like a reference to the little coconut guys in Moana, I think. The little guys. And then Jesus Cristo Aguilar. We talked about God himself before. Well, we've got Jesus Cristo now in the building as well. But can God save Jesus from what's coming up here? I don't know, man. Stewart Nicoll, very high-level chain wrestler and grappler. The question is, he's gotten his face absolutely busted before a fight, and then went out and took his matchup still, even though he could, very tough guy, very crazy guy. I'm just worried, is there a chance that Jesus lands that beautiful overhand that his only career knockout against Shannon Ross looked like? That's probably his path to victory here, because otherwise we've seen this guy controlled in the wrestling and able to use his size kind of and athleticism to explode and scramble out. It's just, if you do that against a guy like Nicoll and his type of grappling, it's going to expose you in a way where you're not getting out of it the rest of the round. The back takes and the way this guy, he grapevines the legs, the lace, right? And he does all the right things, from chest to chest pressure, keeping his head higher in the grappling exchange along the fence, using the fence to chain his wrestling attacks together so that he doesn't have to face, any real distance striking. But even when he's fighting from distance, he even looks pretty decent there. So I think he's got Aguilar covered. It's just in his debut against a rabid fan base, minus 225. I'm not trying to find out from a parlay perspective or anything like that. So, yeah. I mean, we're gonna see what happens here in his debut. I feel like taking a round 1, round 2 is probably a bit, or a round 2, round 3, maybe, if Aguilar has enough defense early. I'm still trying to kind of figure it out. So, because I got to find a prop here. I'm not going to parlay. So, ultimately the pick is Stewie, but I think in his debut here, I'm going to need to learn a little bit more against a guy that supposedly has decent grappling and survivability. So
no. It's Nicoll, and it's Nicoll over 1.5. Don't overthink the wheel. Don't reinvent things. Jesus is, decent enough fighter. I mean, he's been subbed twice, right? He's been subbed by Tatsuro Taira round 1, and that's an excusable one. And I forgot the other submission loss, but it wasn't in the UFC. I just, when you watch the Mendonça fight, we took him against Mendonça, and it was just about A, the price, and B, the thought that, Mendonça doesn't do anything when on the ground, and his control is not very good. And that's exactly what you saw. Stewart has great cardio. He chains takedowns, and I think his grappling is high level. So I do think I think you can play him by sub. I think you can play him. He really could do it in over 1.5, but I like the sub as well. I just think he's a good value play here. Even if you want to parlay his money line, I think he's a solid piece here. This is a setup spot. He's making a debut during Dana White Contender Series season. Why do you think that is, guys? Come on. He's getting the win here.
Doug, what do you got?
I have some concerns with his level of competition since he's not fighting an Eternal is my biggest concern, but it seems like this guy's like a legit jiu-jitsu player from what I can see on the Australian scene. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious that Aguilar has no takedown defense and he just pulls guillotine. He's going to end up on bottom here. It's just if, Kakamura finishes him, which I'm looking, I was so interested in the nickname. Like I'm figuring out what it is now. And it's actually like a pretty sick nickname. If you like, understand.
So TB definitely didn't give it to him because it's good.
That's between you and him. That's between.
Come on, man. What is that?
Between me and Jesus.
That's a you problem. They apparently it's like a 3 foot tall island dwelling goblinoid.
You're short.
So apparently it's like a little creature in the Solomon Islands, which is kind of like a sick nickname considering he's like a pretty small guy. But yeah, I mean, I just think Aguilar is going to give up takedowns. I originally really wanted to bet Aguilar just because of the pace upside. I think he has good cardio. I think there's a lot of question marks for Nicoll, but I feel like he can go to takedowns whenever he wants to. And yeah, I kind of lean ITD. I kind of lean submission more so. I really think a ground and pound finish isn't that live because Aguilar is really tough, man. Like Mendonça was getting to like really dominant positions and kind of beating his ass, and he was still like moving around, trying to scramble up. I feel like, submission opportunities could present itself within ground and pound, or he could just get straight up submitted. So I think I'm going to wait for FanDuel and see what best market price is. But man, with how much grappling that's going to occur in this fight, and you give me a -200 favorite with a clear grappling path, maybe even fight ends by sub would be a reasonable bet if the guillotine does come through. But overall, I really think it's mostly, I do think Nicoll wins this fight because of the takedown defense and what seems to be like a solid grappling pedigree. And the more I thought about the fight, the more I feel like Nicoll is being put in here in a favorable matchup where he can show off his grappling skills. So yeah, I like Kakamura and I like probably his submission prop around +500 if I can get there. It's like plus, I don't know what it is on BetOnline, but I'm hoping FanDuel gives me something juicy enough that it can be like maybe a 2-3 he wears him down a little bit, but preferably just straight up submission seems fine.
Yeah, I think makes a ton of sense. Positionally, he gives up a ton and could be a good, especially for someone that hasn't been like finished, per se. But he's definitely put himself in the limelight.
He's gonna put himself in the danger zone.
The danger zone.
Oh, I was curious about one thing. This is totally random. I meant to ask it while we were talking about the fight, but I didn't get to. Really random. You ready? And this is definitely for Dogfather too. Even more specifically, probably. Dan Hooker fight versus Gamrot, and this is a bet I rarely play because the judges are not watching. Would you consider the Dan Hooker plus 3.5 scorecard thingy at -105?
I never bet point spreads ever.
Fair enough. That's
Same.
a good answer. Because I thought I just feel like he would win a round, but maybe he doesn't.
My opinion on point spreads is like I feel like people bet them a ton, but with how poor judging is,
it doesn't matter. Yeah, it's so dumb.
It's like you think you have like this massive edge, but you don't unless you like are fairly certain that your fighter is going to win a round like incredibly clearly because of a cardio dynamic. And if that's the case, then sure. Or if you think the line is just like completely wrong and X fighter keeps it competitive. So
right.
If it's somebody like Charles Johnson who's competitive with everybody and he's a massive dog, right? Like that makes sense to play a plus 3.5 point spread because he's competitive with everybody he fights for the most part. And he comes out hot in round 3. He's going to have the pace upside to win round 3. Or like a Ray Tesura scenario where he's shown really poor cardio and you are fairly certain that plus 250, a plus 3.5 on Hernandez is going to be a good bet. But minus 105 on like a plus 3.5 when we could get like a 29-28 and then like a 30-27 road card at minus 105. It's like, I don't know how much value, especially when the money line's that big. I'm just going to play the money line. It's plus 275 or something crazy. So
you're 100% right. I was just curious. I'm glad the way you laid it out. I really do hate betting on that because first off, I think I've only done it twice. And
how pissed would you be if you played like the minus 3.5 and like Hooker landed like a flying knee and like was the first guy to kill Gamrot and you were like, oh shit, I could have played plus 375 plus 275 instead.
Yeah, 100%. You're 100% right. Even if it's a grandma's couch cushion play, it doesn't matter to me. You're right.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody. Had a little bit of a later experience tonight, but you guys made it absolutely worth it. Really appreciate everyone contributing in the chat. Had an awesome show here with the Dogfather. Thank you so much for joining us, man. Really appreciate you joined the comedy aspect, which I'm not too surprised after watching your content. That's why I knew you'd be a perfect guest for the show here. Really had a great time. And thank you guys so much, all the support out here. It keeps us going. I love the game. I love breaking down these fights and have a great time every week doing this show and watching the fights. It's absolutely incredible. There's a reason why 4 years strong and we don't see an end in sight, baby. We're rocking and rolling. We'll see you guys Contender Series 2. So we're having some fun. But Dogfather, you got anything to say to these lovely people before we let the guru do his thing here?
Thanks for listening. That's it. That's all I got.
Amazing. You're the best.
Dogfather, seriously, thanks so much for joining us, man. Really, really appreciate chopping it up with you. Awesome guy. Hope one day we can do this again. That would be freaking awesome. Guys,
yeah, we're open to we might have some guests on the Way Past That channel for our show for Fight Factor. Lou and I are tossing up some ideas for the show. Obviously, it's question based, so we're thinking about. Just give me your thoughts. We were thinking about bringing a guest on, and the guest asks Lubert and I questions. And so the guest comes up with their questions for every fight, and Lou and I have to address them, and then the guest gives what their answer is.
Interesting.
Oh, I like that. Very
I like
fun.
that.
And when do we do the eating bugs and all that other Fear Factor stuff?
Yeah.
We need Joe Hogan to get it going.
Exactly.
Joe Hogan.
Guys, seriously, thank you so much for joining us. Dogfather, you're the fucking man, dude. Thanks for joining us. We will be back next week at our new normal standard time of Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern. We've got an unbelievable card back at the Apex, right? Yeah, we're back at the Apex next week. Yeah, can't wait for that. That's going to be a doozy. Make sure you're following my unbelievable co-host, TB Scouting MMA, Twitter, Verdict, Instagram, Pickett, Tapology, and Bet MMA. And you can follow me, the Guru Scouting MMA, on Twitter, Verdict, Instagram, Pickett, Tapology, and Bet MMA. Take care, guys. Let's make that money. See ya.